Hello, everyone. Welcome to A Different Side of the Inside, part two of our discussion on what's going on in the prison, what's going on behind those walls. We're here with Clarence, and in our previous discussion, he was hitting on a lot of good information, some things I had never heard of, and I'm just really intrigued by the whole thing. Some of it is making me kind of angry, but we need to know. He talked about the deception, politics, the lack of education, and how it's a slave mentality going on inside. So we're going to give it back over to him, and Clarence, do your thing.
Okay, I appreciate that, Deborah. I want to apologize because I kind of get a little ahead of myself. I'm a little all over the place, and it's easy for me to iterate a lot of things that are going on and lose people. I don't want to lose the audience. I want the audience to be informed or capable of keeping track of the things that I'm trying to express. And I do have a tendency to know firsthand the things that are going on, but I would like to kind of pause and go back. Even despite the fact that I spoke about matters pertaining to inmates having being put in positions to have power and authority over other inmates by these staffs, and how inmates are utilized. And people don't know that inmates are actually weaponized by prison officials to cause a lot of the harm in prison that people think and look at as advantages. But it only is advantageous to people.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
But not to the majority. We're going to have to pause again only because of the system itself, that only allows me to speak for 15 minutes at a time on our new tablets. So we're going to pause, and we're going to get back to that, and we're going to touch bases on some of the things that I started out talking about to kind of break it down a little more into details for people to understand and keep up with the message that's being conveyed.
All right.
So in the meantime, we're going to pause and come right back. Okay, we're back, and I apologize again for the pause. I definitely like to touch bases on the fact that a lot of the problems in prison are caused by the lack of education by the prisoners who are the majority in these prison systems, who have the ability and the power to address these issues and stand for something that serve every last one of our interests. And what's actually so sad, because there's advantages and disadvantages. And for instance, this whole social media and ability to address the public from inside the prison, these are things that have been stifled. These are things that we've been blocked from. A lot of the media coverage has been blocked from inmates. Only prison officials get to talk to the media unless we do it third party. And they always have systems in place where third party phone calls are prohibited, and they cut our calls off. But times have changed, and these times today give more access to not just the public, but our family members as well. And some of the things like they're providing us with, we have these tablets now that the governor has provided us with, and these tablets, believe it or not, are lawful and legal phones right here in our cells that allow us to communicate with outside people in society, our family members, attorneys, doctors, or anyone. And the governor has made it to where phone calls are free for all inmates, and these tablets were given to all inmates as like it appears to be an entitlement, but prison officials want to make it a privilege, and they want to try to regulate it to really limit inmates. It's always about limiting the inmate from being able to do certain things. And these forms of communication that were granted to us by the governor is
Let's go.
by the governor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, excuse me. We're back on track. These tablets were furnished by the government and the governor of California, and the clauses are written right there in the Senate bill, SB 1008, and it was enacted into law under Penal Code 2084.5. And this legislation and this enactment of law provides for inmates to have free phone calls, and it's a form of rehabilitation as well as to establish family ties. Because these are the very things that have been blocked from a lot of inmates. And this whole social media thing, like right now, this is an opportunity to spread the news about what goes on the inside, whereas the public has been denied access to what goes on in the inside. They don't get the first-hand view what's going on. They don't get to see with their own eyes. They're only able to hear what California Department of Corrections puts out to them. And it's unfair because it's a deception. You know, they create this deception for the people, and the people don't know how their money is being spent. Their taxpayer dollars are being spent. But in the legislation itself by the governor, it explains that
this call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
They're based on people of color in California, especially black and brown people, where the women of these families bear the brunt of the cost versus an industry that is $1.4 billion industry, and they constantly just get paid off us having ties with our family, and they utilize that as a punitive measure. You know, you take that from an individual, and it creates a lot of pain. It creates hardships. It creates a whole lot of lack of the ability to explain to your family members. They were regulating our phone calls to 15 minutes a day if you had the privilege, you know, and our phone calls were privilege-based. But when the governor issued these tablets, they did not establish privilege-based. But so since CDCR knows the advantage that we have, they would like to regulate it and keep us from having just all the free range necessary to convey the things that I'm trying to convey right now. A lot of people are not utilizing this time to inform the public. A lot of people are constantly trying to reestablish ties with family members, ex-girlfriends, friends, and of the past, attorneys, and things like that, where people are trying to find a way to go home due to the changes in law that provides avenues for resentencing, prison convictions being vacated because of the way the laws were applied. You know, now the benefit is called an ameliorative benefit. It's like paying back, you know, giving back something, and to remove these sentences and return certain people back into society to perform as citizens is where they're going with this. And it's reducing the population to a degree, but, you know, recidivism rate is still probably as it has always been. It's wide open for people to come in and out of prison, crime is going to always be prevalent in this country, period. But because of the fact that we now have these tablets, it's given us the free range to be able to communicate with society and hopefully, get people more on board with what's going on, and we can devise different means and ways of combating some of these injustices in prison that hold people back from taking advantage of these real rehabilitative efforts that really seems to be like a big money scheme as well, because they lock us down so much due to logistical purposes, shortages of staff, and with a shortage of staff, the prisons are not able to run daily normal operations. Inmates find themselves sitting in their cells for 24 hours a day. Sometimes it's, less than 24 because you get like 10, 15-minute shower and you're expected to go right back to your cell. And, there's a whole lot of roadblocks to this so-called rehabilitation, because they'll lock the prison down and then act like giving us one of the groups for rehabilitation. It's like, okay, it's a privilege, we'll let these guys go to say that we ran program, or we'll let this group of inmates go to say we provided this and we provided that. But in all actuality, the majority of the prisoners are confined to their cells because they don't have staff to monitor inmate movement. And they're just so clever and just so good at paperwork, underwriting, vaguely writing what they do. And it always appears that they've done their part. It always appears like they've done their job on record. But in essence, the work is not being done, but the money is constantly being funneled and filtered out. So, anyway,
I want to ask you this question. Seeing that you've been there in prison, in that system for over 40 years, right? In your experience, have you experienced prison reform, rehabilitation? Does that actually exist?
Well, rehabilitation, in my honest opinion, is an individual effort. I believe that once a person realizes within himself that he will never re-enter society again and commit a crime against society or humanity, because he or she understands that to have that chance to re-enter society and to live an honest life and make an earnest living, it's become more rewarding than easy come, easy go money by engaging in criminality. I believe that the individual in prison who have done enough time to understand that there's no real end means to doing time. There's no evidence or proof that the longer you stay in prison, the more reformed you're going to become, or, it's almost like saying, okay, we're going to keep you in for 50 years, you know what I'm saying? You don't bow down, or you don't bend your back, or bend over like, you've been broken, then, you haven't been in prison long enough. These are the stigmas, and I believe that a lot of these rehabilitative programs, some of them are very good, but in my personal opinion, a certificate doesn't define one being rehabilitated. It just shows that he's involved in matters